In the recent showdown in Washington over spending limits, the power of the Tea Party movement is undeniable. Grassroots activism played a key role in building the leverage in Congress for larger budget cuts and against new taxes. But there's also a grassroots campaign with a different agenda, and much of it's aimed at the state's Republican U.S. Senator Scott Brown. And one encounter is planned for tomorrow on the Boston waterfront. Our guests are from a coalition of local organizations known as Mass Uniting. We'd like to welcome Darrin, Howell, and Jason Stephany. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thanks, Chris.
I want to start with Jason. Part of what you're talking about is not just what's happened in the last couple of weeks, but the Scott Brown record on jobs. And when I see basically your argument here, he's pretty much against some of these programs that involve government funding of jobs.
That's correct. I mean, we've seen the massive layoffs that have been a result of major budget cuts from the federal level on down to the state and local level. Scott Brown has consistently voted with those cuts. I mean, $665 million in state aid that would have saved thousands of teacher jobs here in Massachusetts, voting against youth jobs, summer jobs for students that have been a big focus over the course of the last few months, voting in favor of tax breaks for companies that ships jobs overseas, while at the same time voting against small businesses who create jobs locally. His record has been truly anti-jobs, and yet he's going on now what he calls a jobs tour, an invitation-only jobs tour, and hosting fundraisers around jobs, and not really talking about what his real record is on these issues.
Darrin, talk about the importance of summer jobs. I know these are probably, I hear it over and over again, these are wonderful experiences for teenagers, but it's a summer job, and come September, it's not there anymore. So is this really doing any good for the economy?
We look at the level of public safety issues that go on in the community. Quite frankly, there's been a lot of issues that took place just this summer. And my belief is that it's due to idleness, not the opportunity to go to any summer programs, not have any summer opportunities.
So you said these programs are needed.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
But there's some people say, well, it's only a summer job. It's not a real adult taxpayer kind of job. So why is this a good thing for the economy, at least so good that the government should be paying for it?
I look at the social acceptance position, that people get the opportunity to socialize with one another. As a youth, I had red shirts that I would go to where I was able to interact with youth across the city, be able to build relationships so that you now had some type of component where people were able to socialize. Right now it's through social networking sites. People don't have the physical contact with anyone anymore, and unfortunately when they finally do meet up with one another, it's usually a negative confrontation sometimes.
Well, talking about confrontations, Jason, the senator was speaking, I think, just yesterday in Brighton at an elderly development, and there was someone, maybe not necessarily an elder, who posed the question, but I guess the question was, if you could raise taxes and avoid cuts in Medicare and Social Security, why not do that? And I guess the senator didn't think that was the right way to go along.
No, he flatly dismissed it. I mean, Senator Brown was very specific in saying that seniors can expect cuts to Social Security and Medicare. It was a warning that he gave the seniors congregated there yesterday. And when questioned, as you pointed out, if he would support any sort of tax increase, maybe closing loopholes on big oil companies, raising taxes on billionaires, the wealthiest 1%, he said no. He said that would be a tax increase on job creators and it would kill jobs. So at the same time that he's telling people that he'll defend tax breaks for the wealthy, he's also saying, but we're going to cut your benefits as a result.
But doesn't he have a point? If a company has less money, or if the boss of a company has less money to spend on hiring people, doesn't it mean there's going to be less hiring?
I think that the trickle-down economics argument has been beaten to death time and time again. I mean, it's been proven to be a false dichotomy. At the same time, companies aren't broke right now. I mean, major corporations are sitting on billions and billions. I think the last estimate was $2 trillion that major corporations are sitting on here in terms of cash, liquid assets. They're not spending right now because there are a lot of other market factors at play, the recent debt showdown being one of them, but it doesn't have anything to do, their tax rate doesn't have anything to do with their hiring procedures.
Darrin, what about the spending on health care, not just for the elders on Medicare, but you've got Medicaid, which has state and federal money, and there's all this concern about disparities in health care in the community. So what do you see is the impact of what the trend is now in Washington make these big cuts?
The trend is going to be basically people are going to go back into a survival form of living. That they're going to look for their basic needs from individuals and not looking towards government assistance. That there's going to be a lot of lack of hope in government officials participating in the process. So with the lack of involvement, all those services that we're discussing about today will be the first on the table to get cut. Those that seek health care are usually the elderly or very young individuals. Those people need those services, but unfortunately those are going to be the first items that's going to be on the table when it comes to budgets.
Right. Jason, we've heard the Democrats call the downgrade from Standard & Poor's the Tea Party downgrade, but then you get Paul Ryan, who wanted to cut Medicare, saying that, hey, if you had done what I wanted to do, there wouldn't have been a downgrade.
I think that at the end of the day, when you take a look at what's happened in the economy, there have been a lot of factors that have played in. The Bush tax cuts, while spending trillions of dollars on war, were certainly a big factor in our overall debt situation. But the chicken game that the Republicans in Congress played, basically holding our economy hostage because they refused to have any sort of revenue increases involved in the formula, I think that that's really what led to this problem. The Republicans refused to budge, and as a result, our economy is going to take another dip.
Darrin, what do you say about people getting involved and trying to do anything about this right now? Because yes, there are people who might be really, negative on the Republicans, but they also might be negative on the Democrats, and they might even think there's nothing any of them can do. So, what would you do to encourage people that it's worth showing up at an event to do something?
It's interesting you mentioned asking me that question, because what I've been doing most lately is reminding people of the civil rights movement, looking at what it took to be socially accepted. It took people being out in the street, really understanding that there was going to be a level of resistance to the type of change that was being demanded, but people still went out and did it. So there was a fight for civil rights and to be socially accepted. I think it's going to be a war for economic justice to take place, where people are going to have to really disrupt the revenue flow with these individual corporations and companies and financial institutions to let them understand that that we're being affected, and we're the individuals that's being affected by decisions that's being made at the top.
Do you think that they have hope that showing up will get them noticed and taken seriously?
I think Verizon work has just demonstrated that showing up does have an effect. I think that it needs to be more consistent, really hard-hitting, and really shedding a light on the corporations and financial institutions that have created this massive economic crisis that we're going through.
So, Jason, what you have planned for tomorrow is that while the senator is inside giving his version of what you need to get more jobs, you're going to be outside, right?
That's right. I mean, the senator is hosting a $1,000 a plate fundraiser inside, targeting young professionals, talking about jobs-related issues. We're going to bring a reality check outside. We've got a number of folks who are struggling with unemployment, people who work with the unemployed every single day there to talk about the struggles that they have, in many cases as a direct result of the votes that he's taken in Congress. It's really important that we have an opportunity for folks to come and make their voices heard, especially with an elected official like Scott Brown, who refuses to have any sort of public forum or open town hall where they can make their voices heard through normal means.
Right, and of course, your event is an open invitation, and it's at Columbus Park, if
That's
I'm not
right.
mistaken?
Columbus Park. We'll be gathering at 5:30. Program begins at 6. We're going to have some leafleting going on out there to raise awareness of Scott Brown's anti-jobs record.
All right, thank you very much, Jason Stephany and Darrin Howell from Mass Uniting. We'll have more news in just a moment.